The young woman had been walking down the quiet streets of the city, her backpack slung over one shoulder, feeling the weight of another long day ahead. Life had not been easy for her, but she had always believed in trying her best even when the odds seemed stacked against her. She had recently finished her morning classes at college, and instead of heading home to relax, she was on her way to do something entirely different. Her aunt, a longtime cleaner at one of the city's most luxurious hotels, had called her earlier in the week with a request that made her pause. Her aunt was sick and needed someone she could trust to cover her shift. The young woman had hesitated at first. Cleaning a hotel room was nothing like her usual routine, and the hotel itself had always seemed intimidating from the outside, with its gleaming glass doors, perfectly manicured gardens, and valet attendants in crisp uniforms. But she knew her aunt had no one else to rely on, and she could not say no. She took a deep breath and reminded herself that it was just for a day, just a few hours, and it could be a way to earn some money while helping her family. When she arrived at the hotel, the lobby felt like another world. The polished marble floors reflected the chandeliers above, and the scent of fresh flowers and expensive perfume filled the air. Guests walked past in elegant clothes, speaking softly on their phones or in hushed tones to one another. She felt a little out of place, her plain uniform and simple shoes making her blend into the background in a way that made her almost invisible. She approached the reception desk, where the staff greeted her politely. She explained that she was covering for her aunt, and they nodded, giving her instructions and a key card. It felt official and at the same time surreal. She walked down the long hallway toward the first room she had been assigned. As she opened the door, the quiet hum of air conditioning and the faint scent of the previous guest greeted her. She set down her backpack and began tidying the room, making the bed with precise movements, straightening the pillows and carefully wiping down the surfaces. She noticed the attention to detail the hotel demanded. Every corner had to be spotless, every surface gleaming. She worked diligently, her hands moving quickly but carefully, mindful not to make mistakes. As she cleaned, she thought about her aunt and the years she had spent working at this hotel. She remembered her aunt's stories about the demanding guests, the long hours, and the satisfaction of a job well done. It made her respect her aunt even more, and she wanted to do her job justice. The next room was larger, a suite with elegant furniture, a small dining area, and a balcony that offered a stunning view of the city skyline. She moved through it methodically, dusting surfaces, vacuuming carpets, and arranging items neatly. Her focus was entirely on her work, but she could not help noticing the luxury around her. The contrast between her world and this place was striking, and she wondered how people could live so comfortably. She finished the suite and moved to another, feeling a mix of pride in her own efforts and awe at the surroundings. She was midway through cleaning the bathroom when she heard the soft click of the door opening behind her. Startled, she turned and saw a man standing in the doorway. He was tall, dressed in a tailored suit, and his presence carried a quiet authority. She instinctively straightened up, thinking he might be a guest returning unexpectedly. He looked at her with a curious expression, his eyes scanning her from head to toe. She felt a wave of nervousness. She quickly explained that she was covering for her aunt, that she was just a cleaner and did not mean to intrude. The man's gaze lingered on her for a moment longer than expected, and then he smiled. He seemed genuinely intrigued, and for reasons she could not understand, he assumed she was a guest rather than someone working. He offered her a drink, insisting she sit for a moment, and she hesitated. She wanted to get back to work, but there was something in his tone that made her pause. She reluctantly accepted, feeling a mix of curiosity and caution. They sat together, the city spread out behind the large windows, and she found herself talking about her life, her studies, and her dreams. She did not lie but spoke simply and honestly, sharing her ambitions and the small struggles she faced while trying to support herself and her family. The man listened intently, nodding occasionally and asking questions that showed he was genuinely interested. She was surprised by how easy the conversation felt, despite the unusual circumstances. The minutes passed quickly, and soon it was time for her to return to her tasks. She thanked him politely and explained that she needed to finish her shift. He waved her off, still intrigued, and she went back to her work, feeling a strange mix of excitement and disbelief at what had just happened. As she cleaned the remaining rooms, she could not shake the memory of the encounter. It was unlike anything she had experienced before. The hotel, which had seemed intimidating at first, now felt like a place of possibilities. She moved with renewed energy, her tasks feeling less like chores and more like stepping stones toward something unknown. By the time her shift ended, she was exhausted but proud of what she had accomplished. She returned her uniform, thanked the staff, and stepped back into the evening air. The city felt different now, brighter and full of potential. She thought about her aunt, who would be grateful for her help, and about the unexpected encounter that had made her day unforgettable. Little did she know, this simple act of covering a shift at the hotel would be the start of a series of events that would change her life in ways she could never have imagined. She walked home slowly, replaying the moments in her mind, smiling at the memory of the man who had mistaken her for a guest, and wondering what the future might hold. That night she lay in bed, tired but content, feeling that for the first time in a long while she had stepped into a world that seemed both daunting and full of promise. She did not know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew that she had handled the day with courage and grace, and that was a feeling she would carry with her for a long time. As she drifted off to sleep, she thought about the hotel, the rooms she had cleaned, and the brief conversation that had left an imprint on her heart. It was a reminder that life could be full of surprises, that opportunities could appear in the most unexpected places, and that even small acts of responsibility and kindness could lead to something extraordinary. She closed her eyes, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that she had already taken the first step toward something remarkable. The next morning, she woke up with a mix of anticipation and nervousness. Though the previous day had been exhausting, her mind kept replaying the encounter with the man at the hotel. It was unusual but not unpleasant. She had thought about it all night, wondering if he would remember her or if it had just been a fleeting curiosity on his part. She got ready quickly, keeping her routine simple, and thought about the tasks ahead. Her aunt was still resting, so she needed to cover another shift. As she stepped out of her apartment, the morning sun painted the streets in soft gold and the city felt alive with movement. People were walking briskly to work, cars honked occasionally, and the smell of freshly baked bread wafted from a nearby bakery. She grabbed a quick coffee and made her way to the hotel, feeling a sense of purpose she had not felt before. When she entered the lobby, she was greeted warmly by the staff. They had noticed her diligence the day before and welcomed her back with small smiles and nods of acknowledgement. It felt nice to be recognized, even for something as simple as cleaning. She received the key card for the first room and headed up. The hotel felt different this morning. Perhaps it was the sunlight streaming through the windows, or maybe it was the quiet excitement in her heart. As she walked down the hallway, she noticed the small details, the soft hum of the air conditioning, the way the curtains swayed slightly, and the faint scent of perfume left by previous guests. Every room had its own character, and she moved from one to another with care, ensuring that every bed was straightened, every surface polished, and every corner spotless. Her hands moved with practiced precision, and her mind stayed focused. She thought about her aunt often, imagining how proud she would be to see her stepping up and handling the work with such responsibility. By mid-morning, she reached the suite she had cleaned the previous day. It was the same room where the man had walked in unexpectedly, and her heart skipped a beat as she pushed the door open. She had assumed he would not be there, but she could not help but glance at the windows and the view beyond. The city looked endless, a maze of streets, buildings, and possibilities. She got to work dusting the surfaces and straightening the furniture. The suite seemed more inviting today, almost as if it remembered her from yesterday. She paused for a moment, letting her eyes take in the luxurious details, the ornate lamps, the soft rugs, and the elegant artwork on the walls. While she worked, the door clicked open once again, and she froze briefly. It was him, the same man from the day before, entering the room with a calm and confident stride. She straightened instinctively, unsure of what to say. He looked at her and smiled. A warm and genuine smile that immediately put her at ease. This time she did not have to explain herself as thoroughly. He seemed to remember, and his curiosity had only grown. He motioned for her to sit in one of the armchairs, insisting they talk for a few moments. She hesitated, torn between her duties and the strange pull of the encounter. Eventually, she sat down, wiping her hands on a small cloth, feeling a little self-conscious but also intrigued. He offered her a glass of water and asked how she had been. She smiled and thanked him, telling him she had covered another shift and was learning a lot from her aunt's work. He listened attentively, asking questions about her studies, her goals, and her life outside the hotel. She spoke honestly without exaggeration or pretense, sharing her dreams and the challenges she faced while trying to balance school, work, and family responsibilities. His eyes did not look away. They reflected genuine interest and perhaps a sense of admiration. It was unusual for someone of his stature to show such attention to a young woman who had only appeared in his life by chance. They talked about the city, about the people who lived and worked in it, and about the moments that shaped a person's character. She shared stories of her family, the struggles her aunt had endured, and the little joys she found in her daily life. In return, he spoke of his own experiences, the lessons he had learned while building his business, and the importance of humility and perseverance. Time seemed to pass unnoticed as their conversation unfolded. She had never imagined that cleaning a hotel room could lead to such a meaningful exchange. She felt a connection, a recognition of shared values, even across their vastly different worlds. He eventually asked her about her plans for the future. She explained that she wanted to continue her education, work hard, and make a difference in her own way. She spoke of wanting to help her family, support her aunt, and contribute positively to her community. Her sincerity was evident, and he nodded thoughtfully, impressed by her determination and focus. After a while, she realized she needed to return to her work. She excused herself politely, and he smiled, telling her he understood and encouraging her to continue being the person she already was. As she cleaned the rest of the suite, she felt a renewed sense of confidence. Her movements were steadier, her focus sharper, and a quiet satisfaction grew within her. This encounter had changed something inside her. She saw the potential for opportunities she had never considered before, simply because someone had recognized her qualities beyond her immediate circumstances. When her shift ended that evening, she returned the key card and thanked the hotel staff. The city streets felt more familiar and welcoming as she walked home. Her mind replayed the day's events, analyzing every detail, every word, and every glance. She knew that this was not just a random moment. It was something significant. Perhaps it was the beginning of a turning point, a chance to step into a new chapter of her life. That night she lay in bed, exhausted yet exhilarated. She thought about the hotel, the luxurious rooms, and the man who had taken the time to engage with her so sincerely. It was a reminder that even ordinary days could hold extraordinary encounters, and that life often rewarded courage, humility, and genuine character. She drifted to sleep with a sense of hope and anticipation, wondering what the next day would bring. The world outside seemed full of possibilities, and she was ready to embrace them one small step at a time. The morning air was crisp and gentle as she walked toward the hotel once again. She had not anticipated how much she would enjoy the work yesterday, despite the exhaustion, and the chance encounter with the man had left her mind buzzing. Today she felt a mixture of curiosity and nervousness. She did not know if he would be there again, but there was a quiet hope in her heart. The hotel lobby greeted her as always, polished and busy, but she felt a little less intimidated now. The staff recognized her and offered small smiles and greetings. They were becoming familiar faces in her routine, and she felt a sense of belonging, even if temporary, in a place that had once seemed so distant. She received her key card and headed toward the first suite assigned to her. The corridors stretched ahead, lined with expensive artwork and soft carpets. Each step she took was purposeful, and her focus was on her work, but her thoughts kept drifting to the previous encounters. As she entered the suite where she had spoken to the man before, she paused for a moment to take in the view. The room was bathed in sunlight, the city sprawling beneath it in endless patterns of streets and rooftops. She placed her cleaning supplies down and began tidying the space, straightening pillows, dusting surfaces, and ensuring the room looked pristine. Her movements were smooth and confident, a reflection of her growing experience. As she worked, she heard the familiar soft click of the door. Her heart skipped a beat. He was there, walking in casually, yet with the unmistakable air of someone accustomed to luxury and control. She straightened up and greeted him politely. He smiled warmly as if he had been expecting her. There was a strange ease in the way he carried himself, and it made her feel both comfortable and slightly nervous. He invited her to sit for a while, and she hesitated, glancing at her work and considering the time. But there was something compelling about his presence, a sincerity that made it hard to refuse. She took a seat and he offered her a glass of juice, insisting she relax for a few minutes. She accepted, feeling a blend of curiosity and gratitude. They began talking, this time more freely. He asked about her family, her dreams, and the challenges she faced daily. She spoke openly, sharing her thoughts and feelings without any pretension. She told him about the long hours she spent helping her aunt, her desire to finish her studies, and the small sacrifices she made to support her family. He listened carefully, his eyes attentive, showing genuine interest in her words. She noticed that he did not interrupt or judge. He simply listened and responded thoughtfully. Their conversation drifted naturally, from personal stories to broader reflections about life. She shared her observations about the city, the people who worked tirelessly behind the scenes, and the moments of kindness she had witnessed. In turn, he spoke of his experiences, the obstacles he had overcome, and the lessons he had learned while building his business. There was a remarkable honesty in his words, and she found herself inspired by his resilience and perspective. As they continued talking, she felt a sense of connection that transcended their different social worlds. Despite his wealth and her modest background, they shared values of hard work, integrity, and humility. The conversation was light yet meaningful, filled with laughter, curiosity, and genuine understanding. Time passed without either of them noticing. She realized that she had been talking for over an hour, yet it felt like only minutes. There was a sense of ease, a rhythm to their interaction that was comforting and invigorating at the same time. Eventually, she glanced at the clock and remembered her shift. She could not afford to neglect her responsibilities, and she excused herself politely. He nodded, understanding completely, and encouraged her to continue her work. She returned to cleaning the suite with renewed focus, but a subtle energy lingered in the air, a sense that something important had taken place. The rest of the morning and afternoon passed in a blur of activity. She moved from room to room, cleaning meticulously, but her thoughts kept returning to the conversations and the unexpected kindness she had experienced. By the time her shift ended, she was physically tired but mentally invigorated. She handed the key card back to the staff, thanked them, and stepped into the evening air. The streets of the city felt alive with lights and movement, and she walked home slowly, savoring the memories of the day. At home, she reflected on the encounters, realizing that they had taught her something valuable. She had learned that confidence and sincerity mattered, that small acts of diligence could leave lasting impressions, and that opportunities could arise in the most unexpected ways. The man had seen her not as a cleaner but as a person with potential, and that recognition had given her a new perspective on her own abilities. That night she lay in bed replaying every detail of the day. She thought about the hotel, the rooms she had cleaned, the conversations she had shared, and the unexpected connection that had formed. There was a quiet excitement in her heart, a sense that life was opening doors she had not known existed. She understood that her journey was just beginning, and that even ordinary tasks, when approached with honesty and dedication, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. Sleep came slowly but peacefully, carrying with it the promise of new experiences and opportunities. She drifted off with a sense of hope, determined to continue working hard, remaining true to herself and embracing whatever possibilities the future held. She knew that the hotel, the work, and the chance encounters were only the first steps in a story that was unfolding in ways she could not yet imagine, and that realization filled her with quiet anticipation and courage. The following day, she felt a sense of anticipation she had never experienced before. She walked through the city streets, her backpack snug on her shoulders, the sunlight warming her face. Life had been a routine of studying, helping her aunt, and managing small responsibilities, but the events at the hotel had shifted something inside her. She approached the hotel lobby with a mix of nerves and excitement. The staff greeted her warmly, acknowledging her presence with kind smiles, and she felt a quiet pride in being recognized for her dedication. She received her key card for the suite assignments and began the familiar walk down the hallways, lined with soft carpets and expensive artwork. Each step she took reminded her of the world she had briefly entered, one that contrasted sharply with her own life, but somehow seemed less intimidating now. The suite where she had first met the man awaited her, and she entered with her cleaning supplies in hand. As she moved through the room, arranging furniture, dusting surfaces, and straightening pillows, she thought about how quickly the previous encounters had shifted her perspective. Cleaning had never felt glamorous, but now it seemed purposeful, almost meaningful because it had led to unexpected connections. She paused briefly, glancing at the view through the large windows. The city sprawled endlessly, a mixture of rooftops, streets, and people rushing through their routines. There was a strange serenity in observing it all from this height, and she felt both small and significant at the same time. Just as she was setting down a polished vase, the familiar click of the door caught her attention. He was there again, walking in with calm confidence. She straightened instinctively, greeted him, and he smiled warmly. It seemed as though the encounters had become a small routine of their own. He asked about her day, how she had been managing her studies, and whether she had found the work manageable. She explained honestly, sharing both the challenges and the small victories she experienced while helping her aunt and learning the hotel's tasks. He listened intently, genuinely interested in her words. The conversation flowed naturally, as though it were the meeting of two minds rather than two people from vastly different worlds. He asked about her aspirations, and she spoke candidly of wanting to finish her education, to support her family, and to grow into a person who could make a difference in her own way. He seemed impressed by her clarity and determination, nodding thoughtfully. She found herself opening up more than she had with almost anyone else, sharing personal reflections, experiences, and small dreams she had tucked away. His questions were insightful but not intrusive, and she felt understood, even in the brief time they spent together. As their conversation continued, he began to offer advice and guidance, speaking of opportunities she might not have considered, and encouraging her to keep pursuing her goals with persistence and integrity. She listened, absorbing his words while quietly wondering if such guidance could ever be more than a passing encouragement. He shared stories of his own beginnings, the struggles he faced, and the importance of seizing chances when they appeared, unexpectedly. She realized that his interest in her went beyond casual curiosity. He recognized something in her that resonated with his own values: hard work, honesty, and humility. Time seemed to slip away unnoticed. What started as a brief conversation turned into hours of dialogue, filled with laughter, reflection, and sincere exchanges. She had never imagined that a simple act of covering her aunt's shift could lead to such meaningful engagement. Eventually, she glanced at the clock, realizing that she had spent more time than she could afford in the suite. She excused herself, explaining she needed to complete her assigned tasks. He smiled, understanding completely, and encouraged her to continue, assuring her that he would remember their discussion. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity. She moved through the other rooms with renewed focus, each sweep of the duster and each folded towel feeling like part of a larger journey. Her thoughts drifted back to the conversations she had shared, the advice he had given, and the encouragement she had received. It was a reminder that small efforts, dedication, and honesty could attract unexpected opportunities. By the evening, her shift was complete. She returned the keycard to the staff, exchanging polite words of thanks and receiving their friendly acknowledgments in return. Stepping out into the streets, she felt a quiet exhilaration, a sense that the world was opening up around her. She walked home slowly, savoring the cool evening air, the lights reflecting softly on the streets, and the knowledge that her life might be poised for change. That night she lay awake, replaying the day's events in her mind. The hotel rooms, the conversations, and the encounters formed a vivid tapestry of experience that seemed both extraordinary and entirely real. She understood that this was not just about cleaning or chance. It was about her presence, her character, and the opportunities that recognition could create. The man's attention had validated something she had always felt quietly: her capability, her integrity, and her potential to step beyond her immediate circumstances. She reflected on the lessons learned. Diligence matters, humility can be noticed, and kindness and sincerity are remembered. Sleep eventually came, bringing rest but also dreams filled with possibility. The hotel, the conversations, and the encounters remained fresh in her mind, a reminder that life could offer unexpected rewards to those who approached each task with care and honesty. She realized that her journey was just beginning, and that this chance born from helping her aunt could unfold into something far more significant than she had ever imagined. The quiet hope she felt was not fleeting. It was rooted in her efforts, her character, and the awareness that sometimes extraordinary moments arise in ordinary places. She drifted into sleep with a sense of purpose, eager to face the days ahead, ready to continue her work, and quietly anticipating what the next chapter of her story might bring. The following morning, She woke with a quiet determination. The previous days had been more than just work. They had been lessons in opportunity, connection, and understanding herself better. She prepared quickly, ate a light breakfast, and walked toward the hotel with a mixture of eagerness and nervousness. As she entered the lobby, the staff greeted her with the familiar warmth, small smiles acknowledging her diligence and presence. She felt a quiet pride in how far she had come in just a few days. Today, she knew, could be significant. She received her key card for the suite assignments and began walking down the familiar hallways. Each step reminded her of the responsibilities she carried and of the moments that had unexpectedly changed her perspective. She entered the suite where she had first met the man and began her work methodically, adjusting pillows, dusting surfaces, and ensuring that every corner of the room looked pristine. The routine was comforting, and yet her mind was alert, aware that something extraordinary could unfold at any moment. As she worked, the door clicked open, and there he was again, walking in with his calm, confident presence. She straightened instinctively, offering a polite greeting. He smiled warmly, inviting her to sit for a conversation. She hesitated, glancing at her work, but the previous encounters had taught her that these moments could be transformative. She took a seat, feeling a mixture of curiosity, nervousness, and anticipation. He offered her a drink, and they began talking. This time, the conversation took on a new dimension. He asked about her longer-term goals, about her ambitions beyond immediate responsibilities, and about her vision for herself. She spoke openly, explaining her desire to complete her education, to help her family, and to pursue opportunities that would allow her to grow both personally and professionally. Her words were honest and reflective, revealing her resilience, thoughtfulness, and determination. He listened attentively, asking insightful questions that made her reflect deeply on her own motivations and choices. She realized that his interest in her was not merely casual. He recognized qualities that resonated with his own values and experience. He spoke about the importance of guidance, mentorship, and networks, and suggested ways she could explore opportunities that aligned with her ambitions. She felt a sense of encouragement and possibility she had never experienced before. As they continued talking, she realized that the chance encounters had evolved into something more meaningful. She was being seen not just for the moment she was in, but for her potential, her character, and the qualities that defined her. The conversation became a turning point, a moment where she understood that her actions, humility, and dedication could open doors she had never imagined. Time passed quickly, and she knew she could not remain indefinitely in the suite. She excused herself politely, explaining that her shift required her attention. He smiled knowingly and encouraged her to continue her work, assuring her that he valued the exchange they had shared. She returned to her tasks with renewed energy, feeling more confident and aware of her own abilities. The remaining hours of her shift were filled with careful work, but a subtle excitement lingered. She cleaned each room with attention and care, but her thoughts constantly returned to the possibilities that had begun to take shape. When her shift ended, she handed the keycard back to the staff, thanked them sincerely, and stepped outside into the city streets. The evening air was cool and refreshing, and the city lights shimmered like a sea of opportunities. She walked home slowly, reflecting on the journey of the past days. Her work at the hotel, the conversations, and the guidance she'd received had all combined to create a sense of hope and anticipation. That night she lay in bed, replaying every detail of the days that had passed. She thought about the hotel, the rooms she had cleaned, and the conversations that had left a lasting impact. She realized that the experiences had given her more than temporary recognition. They had opened her mind to the possibilities of the future and the value of perseverance, sincerity, and humility. Over the following weeks, the interactions she had experienced began to manifest in subtle ways. She was offered mentorship opportunities, introductions to professionals who could guide her academic and career aspirations, and access to resources she had never imagined. Her life, once a cycle of study, work, and responsibility, began to expand with new horizons. She remained humble and focused, continuing to support her aunt and fulfill her obligations, but now with the knowledge that her actions and character had been noticed by someone who believed in her potential. The hotel, the work, and the chance encounters had become a catalyst for personal growth and opportunity. She understood that even ordinary acts carried out with dedication and sincerity could have extraordinary consequences. Over time, She reflected on the series of events that had started simply with covering her aunt's shift. She realized that life often offered unexpected opportunities to those who approached each day with responsibility, integrity, and grace. The experiences had taught her to be courageous, to value genuine connections, and to recognize the power of presence and character. She never forgot the man who had taken the time to engage with her, to see beyond the surface, and to offer guidance and encouragement. That simple recognition had sparked a journey of growth, learning, and possibility that continued to shape her life. As she moved forward, she carried with her the lessons learned from those days, the importance of diligence, humility, sincerity, and openness to opportunity. She understood that while life could be unpredictable, it often rewarded those who acted with integrity, embraced challenges, and remained true to themselves. She approached each new day with hope, courage, and determination, knowing that the small choices she made could lead to extraordinary outcomes. And as she looked back on her journey, she realized that a single act of helping her aunt had not only opened doors, but had also revealed the potential within herself, forever changing the path she was destined to follow. The next morning, she woke earlier than usual, her mind alive with possibilities. Life had begun to feel different since the encounters at the hotel. Each day had brought new perspectives, and she felt a sense of purpose she had not known before. She prepared quickly, taking care to dress neatly, and left her small apartment, feeling both excitement and determination. The streets were bustling with activity, the sounds of cars, conversations, and footsteps blending together into a familiar rhythm. She walked with a steady pace, her backpack comfortably on her shoulder, thinking about the tasks that awaited her at the hotel. When she entered the lobby, the staff greeted her warmly. They had come to recognize her dedication and reliability, and their smiles gave her a sense of belonging. She received her keycard for the suites she would be cleaning and headed toward the familiar hallways, their soft carpets and elegant decor providing a backdrop to the day ahead. The suite where she had met the man on several occasions awaited her. She entered and set down her cleaning supplies, feeling a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. As she began her work, dusting surfaces, straightening pillows, and ensuring every corner of the room was spotless, her mind reflected on the lessons she had learned so far. She had discovered that small acts of responsibility could lead to remarkable opportunities, and that sincerity and humility were often recognized in ways she had not imagined. The door clicked open, and once again he appeared. His presence was calm yet commanding, and she instinctively straightened up. He smiled at her warmly, inviting her to sit for a conversation. She hesitated briefly, glancing at her work. But the encounters over the past days had taught her that these moments could be transformative. She accepted and sat, feeling a mixture of curiosity, caution, and eagerness. They began talking, this time with a deeper focus. He asked about her long-term goals, about her vision for the future, and how she imagined her life unfolding beyond her immediate responsibilities. She spoke honestly, sharing her hopes to complete her education, to support her family, and to grow into someone who could contribute positively to the world around her. Her words were sincere and reflective, revealing a strength of character that had developed through years of effort and perseverance. He listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions that encouraged her to reflect even more deeply on her choices and ambitions. She realized that his interest was not superficial. He saw potential in her, recognizing qualities that aligned with values he held dear: hard work, integrity, and resilience. He offered guidance and suggestions for exploring opportunities she had never considered. He spoke about mentorship, networks, and resources that could help her grow, and encouraged her to pursue them with courage and focus. She felt a sense of encouragement and possibility that was both thrilling and grounding. As the conversation continued, she understood that these encounters had evolved into something meaningful. She was being seen not only for her current actions but for her potential, her character, and the qualities that defined her as a person. Time passed almost unnoticed, and she realized that hours had gone by in conversation. She excused herself, returning to her work with renewed energy and focus. The remaining rooms of her shift were filled with careful, methodical cleaning, but her mind remained alive with the ideas and encouragement she had received. Each movement, each small task, felt purposeful and meaningful. By the end of the day, she was physically tired but mentally invigorated. She handed the key card back to the staff and stepped out into the evening air. The city streets were alive with light and movement, and she walked home slowly, savoring the calm and reflecting on the events of the day. That night she lay in bed reviewing every detail of her experiences at the hotel, the rooms she had cleaned, the conversations she had shared, and the guidance she had been offered. She realized that these experiences had given her more than temporary recognition. They had opened her mind to possibilities and taught her the value of perseverance, humility, and sincerity. In the following weeks, the influence of these encounters began to manifest in concrete ways. She was offered mentorship opportunities, introductions to professionals, and guidance that would help her achieve her academic and personal goals. Her daily routine, once defined solely by study and work, began to expand with new horizons, giving her a sense of hope and anticipation for the future. She remained humble, focused on supporting her aunt and fulfilling her responsibilities, but she approached each day with a new confidence and awareness of her potential. She recognized that even ordinary actions, when carried out with dedication and honesty, could create extraordinary results. She also learned to appreciate the small joys and meaningful interactions in her life, understanding that the relationship she built and the sincerity she expressed mattered as much as accomplishments or recognition. Over time, she reflected on the journey that had begun with a simple act of helping her aunt by covering her shift. She understood that life often offered unexpected opportunities to those who approached each day with responsibility, integrity, and grace. The experiences had taught her to be courageous, to value genuine connections, and to recognize that her actions could shape her destiny. The man who had recognized her potential had become a symbol of how small gestures, awareness, and attention could change a person's path. She carried with her the lessons learned: diligence, humility, sincerity, and openness to opportunity. Each day brought new challenges, but also the confidence to navigate them, knowing that her character and perseverance could create openings for growth and success. She approached her studies, her work, and her personal ambitions with a renewed sense of purpose. The hotel and the encounters there had shown her that even ordinary tasks could lead to extraordinary outcomes when approached with care, honesty, and integrity. As she looked to the future, she understood that her life was unfolding in ways she had never imagined, filled with opportunities, growth, and meaningful connections. She embraced each day with hope and courage, aware that the small choices she made now could shape her journey in remarkable ways. And in her heart, she carried the quiet understanding that her journey, which began by stepping into her aunt's shoes for a single shift, had become a story of possibility, resilience, and transformation that would continue to guide her for years to come. The morning sun broke gently across the city skyline as she stepped outside, the familiar weight of her backpack on her shoulder. Life had taken on a rhythm that was at once ordinary and extraordinary. She moved through the streets with a sense of purpose, each step grounded in responsibility yet lifted by possibility. Her work at the hotel had become more than just a shift. It had become a portal to opportunities she had never imagined. As she approached the lobby, the staff greeted her with the kind familiarity of people who had come to recognize her dedication. She returned their smiles, feeling a quiet confidence growing inside her. She collected her keycard for the suite assignments and began walking down the hallways lined with soft carpets and artful decor. Each suite had its own character, and she moved from room to room with careful attention, tidying surfaces, straightening bedding, and ensuring everything was pristine. She had learned to find satisfaction not just in completing the tasks, but in doing them with focus and pride. The suite where she had met the man several times awaited her. She entered with her supplies, feeling a mixture of anticipation and calm determination. The room held a kind of familiarity now, a space where her previous experiences had intertwined with her growing understanding of herself. As she cleaned, she considered the unexpected nature of her journey. What had begun as a simple act of helping her aunt had evolved into meaningful encounters, guidance, and mentorship. It had taught her that diligence, humility, and sincerity could open doors in ways she had never expected. The door clicked softly, and there he was, entering with the composed confidence that had become characteristic of him. She straightened instinctively, greeted him politely, and accepted his invitation to sit for a conversation. She had grown accustomed to these moments, yet they still brought a mix of nervousness and excitement. Today, the conversation took on an even deeper tone. He asked about her dreams in a broad sense, encouraging her to think beyond immediate responsibilities and visualize her life in ways she had not considered. She spoke candidly about her hopes to complete her education, support her family, and pursue opportunities that would allow her to grow and contribute meaningfully to her community. Her words were reflective, revealing a strength and clarity of character that had developed through her experiences. He listened attentively, offering insight and advice based on his own life journey. He spoke about the importance of perseverance, of recognizing opportunities when they appeared, and of cultivating relationships that could support her growth. She absorbed his guidance, feeling both inspired and grounded. Their conversation moved naturally, touching on topics of resilience, personal values, and the role of integrity in shaping a fulfilling life. She shared stories of her challenges and small victories, the moments that had tested her patience and character, and the instances where she had discovered her own strength. He responded with thoughtful questions and encouragement, helping her reflect more deeply on her potential and the steps she could take to achieve her goals. Time passed almost unnoticed. The hours of discussion were filled with insights, laughter, and sincere exchanges that left her feeling seen and valued. She realized that her journey at the hotel had become a pathway to growth, not only in practical terms but in understanding her own capabilities and the impact she could have on the world around her. Eventually, she excused herself, returning to her work with renewed focus. Each suite she cleaned became more than a task. It was an opportunity to practice care, precision, and attentiveness. The work, once mundane, had gained meaning and depth. By the end of her shift, she handed the keycard back to the staff and stepped out into the evening air. The city streets were alive with movement and light, yet she walked slowly, savoring the calm and reflecting on the lessons of the day. Her mind replayed the conversations, guidance, and encouragement she had received, and she understood that these moments had shaped her thinking and perspective in lasting ways. That night she lay in bed, contemplating the path her life had taken since she had agreed to cover her aunt's shift. She realized that ordinary acts, when performed with integrity and dedication, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. She understood the importance of being present, of demonstrating sincerity, and of seizing opportunities with courage. Over the following weeks, her life began to expand in tangible ways. She was introduced to mentors and professionals who could guide her academic and career aspirations. She received access to resources and support that had previously seemed unattainable. Her routine of study and work remained, but now it was enriched by the possibilities these new connections brought. She approached each day with a sense of purpose and determination, understanding that her actions, character, and dedication mattered in shaping the opportunities available to her. She remained humble, continuing to support her aunt and fulfill her responsibilities. But she also embraced the new horizons that had opened. Reflection became a daily practice, reminding her to appreciate the journey and recognize the small steps that led to growth. She understood that her story was still unfolding, and that the experiences at the hotel had been a catalyst for her personal and professional development. Each encounter, each act of diligence, and each display of sincerity had built upon the last, creating a foundation for a future filled with potential and meaningful achievement. As she looked to the future, she approached each day with hope, confidence, and determination, aware that her journey had been shaped by both ordinary and extraordinary moments. She embraced challenges as opportunities for growth, valued the relationships she built, and recognized that her actions and character could influence her path in significant ways. She carried with her the understanding that life's turning points often emerge in unexpected ways, and that the courage to act, the humility to learn, and the openness to opportunity could lead to extraordinary outcomes. And so, she continued forward, guided by the lessons learned, the relationships formed, and the quiet belief in her own potential, ready to embrace the chapters of her life that were yet to be written.